I have so much to say about the way interest rates impact real estate, especially here in Austin, Texas, that I had to come up with this stream of consciousness recording and just go over. I just did a podcast. We just had a podcast talking about this exact subject, but I wanted to kind of fill in some of the gaps because an hour isn't enough time to touch on all of these points. And I think if you're interested in real estate in Austin, that's the purpose of this video. This video is for you. So I'm Ian of Austin. I'm a realtor here in the Austin, Texas market. I've been doing real estate for a while. A lot of people don't know that. And I've seen so many things. So I've been in the industry pre-COVID, during COVID, and now post-COVID. And all three markets are very different. And so if you're just now entering the Austin market, you'll want to understand this. If you've been in the market for a while or you've purchased a bunch of homes, you'll still want to understand this. So let's talk about it. All right. Interest rates are a touchy subject because not a lot of people understand them. Everybody thinks, well, the Fed is dropping rates and that's going to impact the Austin, Texas real estate market. And it's like, first off, that's a federal thing, right? And secondly, the inflation report and the Fed has an impact, but it's not direct. It's usually a lagging impact on how interest rates are adjusted in the mortgage industry, right? Because they're really watching the mortgage-backed securities, who's investing in them, who's buying the bonds. And so right now, interest rates are high because the government isn't buying a lot of the mortgages because for whatever reason. I don't know. I'm not a lender, and I'm going to go ahead and say that right now. But I've done a lot of deals, and I've watched the numbers, and I watch how the deals are working from the perspective of a realtor. So because of this, I have a lot of people that are winning heavily when they're buying today while the interest rates are high, but for so many different reasons. So if the interest rates dropped, let's say they dropped 1%. So I just had a client in a resale home. Man, there's just so much to say. So think about there's resale homes, there's new construction, and then there's, like condos, there's multifamily, all that sort of stuff, and commercial. I work in all of these spaces, but I'm focused right now on talking about resale homes versus new construction. The reason why is because new construction builders, or if you're building a new home with a sales agent, first off, you should have a realtor with you because they see more than just that one product. But also, a lot of times they have incentives or a relationship with a mortgage lender. So based on whatever they're doing, they might be able to offer you a lot of money off on their product because they might be volume builders. Depends on where you are in the United States, but that's how it is in the Austin, Texas area and suburbs, right? So if it's a new construction, you might see a capitalist market, whatever you want to call it, but that's what's happening. You have people that are selling their house that they've lived in, that they've built equity in, to a buyer who's interested in buying. That's where we're looking at interest rates. That's where when you hear conventional loans or first-time home buyer loans or all that sort of thing, that's where that applies. Okay. So you have these people that are buying homes and they're using a conventional loan. So they might be putting anywhere from 5% down to 20% down, and you'll hear interest rates. So I just had a closing on Monday, so a couple days ago, where the interest rate was 6.5%. Okay. So what does that mean? That means the monthly payment on a $400,000 house was somewhere around $3,500 a month. Is ended up how it worked out. And it's different for everybody. It depends on your property taxes. It depends on your insurance. And it depends on the sales price of the home. So don't get tied up in those numbers. I'm just using these as an example. So let's say $400,000 house, $3,500 a month. If the interest rate dropped today to, instead of it being 6.5%, let's say it dropped to 4.5%. That same house monthly payment might have gone from $3,500 a month to $2,800 a month. All right. So somebody's saving $700 a month on their monthly payment. But what does that do to the market? Okay. It means all these other houses that are sitting there right now, people are going to start gobbling up, like people that are waiting on the sideline, buyers that are waiting on the sideline. They can buy a better house, or their monthly payment could be lower for the houses that they are interested in. And so you end up getting more buyers in the market. Today in Austin, we have a lot of houses listed for sale, something like 14,000 active on the market for sale. And so that number will end up shrinking as you have more buyers that are able to afford these houses. And so they'll go from 14,000 houses to maybe 8,000 houses, which is pretty good. Now, let's say it drops even further, and instead of being 5% or 4.5% interest rate, let's say it goes to like what COVID was, which was 3% interest rate. Well, if that happens and everybody can afford a house and their monthly payment would be like $2,100 a month, not everybody. I'm sorry, I got to be sensitive here, right? But in this market, someone could buy a house for $2,000 a month or $2,200 a month. Well, that's incredible, right? And so what that means is now you have so many more buyers that can buy this house, this same house. And so the 14,000 houses that are active for sale ends up dropping down to like 4,000 houses available for sale because everybody's buying everything. And that is what causes prices to go up because now you have no competition. If I'm the only house for sale in a neighborhood, I can put it for a list at whatever price I want. Because if somebody wants to live in that neighborhood, they're going to buy it. But I have another neighborhood where I listed a house last week, 100 houses listed for sale in that neighborhood, and they were all 4-bedroom, 3-bath houses, all of them. It's like, well, is yours special? No, I got it in new construction, haven't done anything to it. It's like, well then, if I have 100 houses to choose from, I'm just going to take the best deal. If they all look the same and the same layout, they're all 4 bedrooms, 3 baths in the same neighborhood, same schools, same prices, why would I choose a more expensive one? Sometimes they're even the same builder in that area. So all of this has to come into play, which is why we sit and we have a conversation if we're planning on you purchasing a home, especially if it's your first time, but even if you haven't purchased one in 5 years, right? Or if you purchased one during COVID, it's a different conversation today than it was a couple years ago. All right, there are a few other things to consider in this. It's going to be a little long video. The next thing is we want to make sure that we're talking about actual median prices. So I put out some videos, so I would check here or somewhere on my channel. Make sure you subscribe if you're interested in this kind of information. I would watch the videos that talk about the home prices or the median market prices or the real estate market insights or whatever I title it as. But you want to understand what the median price for homes in Austin are. So that way, if you have a home that fits that, you can say, how do I make mine better or worse? And then you want to break it down per neighborhood, right? Just because you're looking at buying a home in Austin doesn't mean you have an idea unless you've lived here for a long time and you know every single neighborhood. Every neighborhood has a different price point, even across the street. And when I say Austin, I'm talking about the greater Austin area. This could be Round Rock. It could be Buda. It could be Westlake. It could be Pflugerville, East Austin, North Austin, Domain area, Mueller area. It doesn't matter. So you really want to break it down by the neighborhoods because some of them have a high demand and some of them are like houses could sit for 7-8 months on the market and not sell. It's a different world today than it was a couple years ago. So with that, most people who bought a house before 2019 or before COVID hit are grateful that they did so and have built up equity in the home, unless they've taken out like a secondary loan or something or refinanced or anything like that. Unless they've done something to affect what equity would have grown in the house, they're still up. And obviously that's not a blanket rule, but that's a solid generalization that I'll stand behind. And if you disagree with that, or if you've seen something else, please tell me in the comments. I'm curious to hear other stories that I may not know about, because I've helped hundreds of people buy and sell their homes, but that I don't know everybody, right? Like, and I watch the numbers and I see what's happening. And this is where a lot of these websites like Zillow or Realtor.com or Trulia or Homes.com or all these don't get it right. They get it wrong. And algorithms might get it wrong. If I have a buddy and I'm like, dude, can you help me? I want to sell this house. I know you're not trying to spend a whole lot of money right now. Do you want to do a seller financing? And it becomes this whole thing. That transition, which I've seen happen a lot, especially lately, is different information than what's shared with some of these websites. And so there's a lot of nuanced information. Like, you don't know that I didn't actually buy the house and pay my same closing costs for this. Maybe my buddy that was buying this house that I'm seller financing gave me a little bit of money. And this is maybe, gave me a little bit of money. And I'm like, okay, well, you can rent it for the next couple of years. And then we'll talk about, closing it out in 3 years from now. We'll do a balloon payment and close it out in 3 years from now. So now it just looks like I've got this house that I actually sold, but I didn't sell. You see what I mean? So that's not going to be captured by Zillow because nobody wants to give that information, because if you are buying a house in Texas, it is a, what do you call it? Non-disclosure state. Gosh, I have too much information up here. It's a non-disclosure state, which means you don't have to tell anybody what you paid for your house. And so as a realtor, I consult my clients exactly that same way. I say, if you're buying a house, do not put that information on Zillow. If somebody sends you an email or sends you even a letter in the mail and says, hey, tell me what you paid for this house, don't do it. Unless you're protesting your property taxes and you're kind of in a pinch and you have to argue that your property taxes shouldn't be this high, you don't really want to disclose what you paid for the house. That's a whole other conversation. So median home prices right now ish, and the new numbers are coming out tomorrow, so I'll have a video on that. But right now, around 555,000 for Austin proper. And Austin proper is Travis County, the city of Austin. So outside of that, when we're talking Austin plus the suburbs and some of the surrounding counties and some of the surrounding cities, it's more like 450. So it's a $100,000 difference. Now it's still an increase about 1.6% year over year, right? So you're still appreciating every year for the homes in Austin, but you got to be careful like what you're considering in that trend. Okay. All that to say, let's talk about the next kind of idea that falls into line here, because we're talking about interest rates right now in Austin, Texas, and how, if they drop, it impacts the Austin market. Something that's not really considered is the sector of buyers is shifting right now, and sellers, but specifically buyers. Austin was just nominated as one of the best places for new graduates. If they're graduating right now and they're looking for a job, they don't have any experience or may not have any experience where they can say, I expect this much of a salary, right? So that's really important because, people that have been here a while, they might have a hard time. In fact, I know this. I've had few conversations with people, clients and the like, and even other real estate professionals, everything, that they are having a hard time finding jobs in their field because it's either being taken over by AI or this or that, or just like, they only want senior level or manager level. But that's a different perspective. That's somebody who's lived here for 5 or 10 years, right? Or maybe somebody's relocating from New York, Denver, Florida, California, and they're used to this budget or this level of income, and they're moving to Austin. Well, there's not a high probability that you're going to make the same. The cost of living is different. And so the income or what the salaries are probably going to be a little different too. And so we've got to keep that in mind. So the people that are selling their houses right now, what industries are they in, right? So if the interest rates drop, this might help people that are in the hospitality industry or the service industry or musicians or artists or something like that to be able to afford a house. But then the people that came in during the tech kind of boom in the last couple of years during COVID, where they could work anywhere because they could work remote. Well, some of those people are leaving because, tech is kind of shaking up right now. And so those people that are leaving, now they're all selling their houses. And so they're not making what they were hoping to make when they're selling these houses, or they have to leave. And so there's attrition happening for those jobs. Now the population is shifting a little bit. The demographics and the job sectors are shifting a little bit, right? I was just looking at an article for the Leander School District. Leander ISD, I don't know if it's a particular school or the school district itself. Actually, it's Liberty Hill. And they just announced that they're starting the year with 4-day school weeks because they just don't have the support and the staff because people are shaking up and moving around and all that sort of stuff. It's a lot. It's kind of interesting to see how that's affected. So if you're going through a job transition, I'm curious what industry you're in. Are you in tech? Are you in healthcare? Like, I'll give an example. My wife works for a company out of Boston, but she's also worked for Baylor Scott and White, and she's worked for Austin Regional Clinic, right? But the Boston company paid her more and she can work remote. But if she ever had to come back and work here in Austin, like for a company here in Austin, based out of Austin, the salary is going to adjust. You see what I mean? Like, that's everybody, sorry, not everybody, but a lot of people are going through this right now in a lot of other industries. So you got to think about that when you're thinking about real estate. What is bringing people to Austin and what is causing people to exit Austin? That's one thing. So based on these people relocating, you have to think, what neighborhoods are they moving to? There was a big push during COVID, especially because Apple had announced a new campus and it was Northwest Austin, right? Because of that, a lot of people were choosing an area along that route between Austin, Cedar Park, Leander, because the road 183 and then the fact that the train went there, people could hop on the train or ride share or whatever and go to their spot, but live in the suburbs, get larger houses. And then if they ever needed to go downtown, they could, but they realized that most of it was traveling to and from work. And so that's how they ended up in that particular suburb, and that suburb kind of exploded, right? So it was in the path of growth for a particular company. What some people did that worked for that company, depending on the culture, depending on the background of that person, they would actually buy in bunches in that neighborhood. So some cultures, like one person will buy a house and then their friend will buy a house and then their cousin will buy a house, all in that same neighborhood. And that was happening a lot here in Austin. So now that the Apple thing is changing, Dell is changing, all of these tech companies are changing, Meta, Google, Oracle, all these tech companies are shifting their priorities, maybe hiring different people or just changing the way they do things or creating a return to work mandate. Well, now that's shifting the neighborhood demand, right? And the corridor, right? So now if you have to drive to work, is that still the corridor you want to be on? What other companies are coming here, right? So we've got Tesla's making a big push. They're doing a lot. They've got a new relationship with Samsung, which I've reported on before. So now that Samsung and Tesla have made their relationship official, Meta has a new place going on, I think in Jarrell or Salado, which is northeast. Both of these are northeast of I-35, which means it's just to the east of the city, northeast of the city. You've got Amazon warehouses over there. They go from north all the way down south. So you don't really have a lot of the tech. You actually have more manufacturing and more like chip building and stuff like that are over on the east side. Okay, so what does that do? That means that people that are driving to work and working on these chips or working in manufacturing, building cars, building robots soon, right? Like building these types of things, they're going into the office. So now what does that do for the neighborhoods alongside there? So that hits your Hutto, your Round Rock, your Pflugerville, your East Austin, and then your Kyle and your Buda on that side, your Seguin, right? So your San Marcos, depending on where you are. So all of these are factors in here. And so when you're looking with a real estate professional, with a real estate agent, when you're looking at new builds, all that sort of stuff, there's so much to consider. You always want to think, I like to call it a growth corridor. Okay. So if I'm having a consultation with a new buyer, I sit there and I talk about like, what's your plan? And then based on that, how is Austin divided up? What are you going to do? And where are you spending most of your time? And then we kind of target a sector and then we go from there. All that to say, neighborhoods will be impacted in a different way once the interest rates drop. So you want to be cognizant of this information before you make your decision. That's all I'm saying. I can't give you the answers, but I can give you a lot of information. You can dissect it. I don't care if you're using ChatGPT or Grok or Claude or Perplexity. Sit with your real estate agent, sit with your partner, sit with your family, sit with some of your financial advisors, sit with all of us and leverage AI. Do it all. And then based on that, disseminate the information, and then we can decide, is it the right move and where is the right move? Because the neighborhood long-term is a huge consideration. It changes your property tax rate, which also changes your monthly payment. Like I know some people that focus on the lowest property tax rate. They don't even care where the neighborhood is. It's like, okay. And then I have some people that don't care anything about the property tax rate. They just want it all in the same neighborhood. Everybody's got a different strategy. You got to talk to these strategies before you're buying. Before I can answer the question, is now a good time to buy? The interest rates are higher right now. We're talking about them dropping. I've seen them drop lately. It's always a good time to buy for someone that needs to buy, depending on their situation. There's so many like what ifs in there. So everybody's situation is different. And I remember, man, people would argue about getting pre-qualified or pre-approved before going into a deal, or even signing a buyer's representation agreement saying, hey, let me help you as your realtor. They'd be like, oh, I don't need any help. I mean, I have a bunch of realtors I know. It's like, okay, what level of education do they have? How long have they been in the market? You need to ask that question, because this is the stuff that matters and changes everything about your intent. The more information you know, your intent should change, especially as you're more seasoned in the real estate market. Austin suburbs, Austin metro, where are the travel routes? Right now we have Waymo, Tesla. So Google's Waymo, Tesla, their robotaxi, and Amazon has Zoox. So right now is the first time in the world, in the United States ever, that all three companies are starting a robotaxi service in a city. Austin is the city, right? We have a lot of cool stuff still happening here that people may not know about. Like, that's a good example. And so now, if you have all these cars that are autonomous, like I drive a Cybertruck, I get flipped off every day. I don't know why. I wanted a truck, right? And I wanted it to be electric because I like having an electric vehicle. It wasn't about politics or any of that. I've had this on order forever. I bring this up because my truck drives me all over the place. Imagine when it's so good that I don't have to pay attention to the road. Just imagine that. what can I do with my time? Now imagine it's you. What can you do with your time if you never had to drive, right? A lot of people have taken the train or taken the bus and they've experienced that life, right? It might take you a little longer. Like it might take you an hour instead of 30 minutes to hop on the train or something like that, right? To get where you need to go. But if you took that to get to work, it felt good. You know, there's lower stress. Maybe you take a nap. Maybe you listen to a podcast. Maybe you're prepping for a meeting in the morning. Doesn't matter. The stress level is reduced. Now, imagine if that could just be your vehicle. How does that impact Austin? Does it change where you live? Maybe, right? Does it change what job you're willing to do? Maybe. Does it change your level of knowledge, your time, the amount of time? Now you have an extra maybe 30 minutes to 2 hours because you're commuting. Maybe you have that much more time to invest in yourself or your business or your family. Maybe you can, like, maybe you have family. Like I've got some clients that they're from Costa Rica. All their family's in Costa Rica, but they live here. Like maybe while they're driving, they can just sit on FaceTime with their family and get that taken care of instead of waiting till they get home after they deal with traffic and all that. Like this all changes how people live, and people move for love or money. And so when that you remove that as a factor, it changes that love component, right? Kids in school and all that. Like there's just so much happening right now. I don't think people truly get how it's about to impact Austin and its real estate market. And this is independent of interest rates. And so now imagine as the interest rates drop and you have all these people that have all these options, and now you have more people with equity that can sell their homes and move where they need to move across the United States, because this is what happened during COVID. But you're adding in the fact that you have these cars that drive themselves and these new jobs that are coming here and these new graduates that are showing up in Austin. We know that buyers influence the demand right now, but the big thing I think is you also have an age demographic. We have something called a silver tsunami. And I talk about this a lot in different podcasts and stuff, but you always got to consider these. How many people have a home that have had a home for 20 or 30 years that have lived here and they just don't want to sell it? They're like, now's not a good time to sell, or they have it on the market, but there are a lot of people that have equity in homes and don't want to sell it because they heard it's a bad time to sell. I mean, that's really interesting, especially if they're up in age or they're going through their legacy years, or, some people pass, heaven forbid, but like that kind of stuff happens. And so now the people that are holding on because they've got a low interest rate, or because they just don't want to sell, or they realize that in-home care is really costly. And so just holding your home and maybe leveraging the equity of that home to pay for the in-home care, like all of those become variables in their decision. And so you have people that are holding on to homes. And so the market's a little imbalanced from that. If the interest rates drop, what does that do to the people that are holding on to their interest rate and don't want to buy something else because they're waiting for the interest rate to drop? I think it spurs more activity in the Austin market. That's one thing that's really interesting. We have a lot of houses listed on the market for sale, and all of these factors will change the velocity at which houses move. And so politics, we were just talking on the last podcast about tariffs. And I think Arizona Tea is saying they can no longer do tea for $1 a can because of the price of aluminum, because, Canada and us are arguing for whatever reason. Like, politics aside, steel, gold, lumber, whatever it is, all of that are nails, are elements of building a home. And so builders have to pay more and aren't able to sell it for as much right now. So if the interest rate drops, now you have more people that'll be builders because the tariffs won't matter as much. It depends if they are publicly traded companies or private companies, because then that changes their trajectory, whether they're focusing on stockholders and all that. So like there are a lot of publicly traded building companies and they're building tons of houses, but that's where these incentives come from, whether or not you'll get a deal if you're trying to buy a new construction home. And so new construction homes aren't reported the same way as resale homes. And so that skews our numbers a lot. So a lot of time people are looking at these numbers on some of these websites and they think they're making a solid decision. And I'm not saying they are or aren't, but they think they're making a decision on all of their information, but they're only getting a subset of the information, or inadequate information, unfortunately. So it's really important that if you're buying a place, you really understand all of these elements in here. I'm going to wrap it up with a question. Given these shifts for you or for someone let's use somebody Do you think right now is the right time to buy or sell in Austin, and why? Like, should people wait? Should people take action? I would love for you to be able to share your perspectives because everyone has a different one. So hopefully, like I said, a stream of consciousness. I hope it was helpful and just kind of gave you a bunch of directions, a bunch of threads to pull on so that you can learn more, because that's the whole point of me doing this. I meet a lot of people that I'm able to help as a real estate agent. I get a lot of my clients from YouTube. I'm not going to lie. I love that. But I need for more people to understand that there's so much more to this than let me open a door for you. Anybody can open a door. Not anybody. Anybody who pays for their license can open a door. It goes so much deeper than that. Resale, new construction, farm and ranch, commercial, condos, freestanding condos, townhomes, all of it. It's all so very different. Multifamily. Keep that in mind when you're shopping. Good luck to you. Let me know if you have any questions. I look forward to seeing y'all in the next video. Thanks.